Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading from Curse of the Elf Lord by Heidi Vanlandingham, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me for Chapter 1. Southern France, Beast of Windeven's Castle. Émilien Elasalor stared at the precious young woman standing in front of the oversized window in the upstairs sitting room of his modest castle, knowing he had to tell Shalandra the secret he kept from her the entirety of her life. The secret that meant he would lose her. Could he take that risk? No, he couldn't. Not yet. Dappled sunlight filtered through the treetops outside, shimmering over her like fairy lights. Her thick black hair hung down her slender back in loose curls. Deep in thought, her gaze never left the window, and he wondered what she studied so intently on the side lawn. He rubbed his neck with one paw, wishing for the millionth time since being cursed into the form of an upright wolf that he had regular fingers instead of sharp knife-like claws. What he wouldn't give for a long upper body massage to loosen the ever-present muscle cramps. His body still reminded him of the now 2-month-old battle alongside his nephew Bernard against the Dragar in Washington, D.C. They still hadn't figured out who had released the undead, but he knew his nephew would figure it out. Forcing one hind leg into the room, the thick pads of his paws silent on the century-smooth stone floor, he closed the distance between them, stopping a few feet away from the most precious thing in his life. Shalandra. She was beautiful. His gaze traced the young woman's profile, soft strands of her long hair, framing the face of an angel. Her nose was long and straight, accentuating the full rose-tinted lips. She was the perfect blend of god and elf. I may not react, but I still hear you, brother. What's wrong? She turned to face him, worry swirling in her shimmery aqua gaze. With a habit as old as time, he forced all emotion away. Why do you think something is wrong, ma petite? One side of his mouth curled up at the brief glimpse of vexation at his endearment. She hated it when he referred to her as his little one. Now he called her that to see the spark of annoyance swirling in her rich gaze. It was those times he recognized her mother in her. One elegant eyebrow rose. Because, dear Émilien, you normally stomp into a room, cursing and complaining about whatever or whomever you're annoyed with. That's why. It isn't like you to be quiet. He ran his paw across his tired eyes, wishing he didn't have to have this conversation with her, but he had put it off far too long. How was he supposed to tell her he had lied to her entire life? Too many things had happened recently, though, and he knew his time with Shalandra had run out. Her mother wasn't known for her patience, especially with him, but damn it, telling Shalandra she was his sister, not daughter, had been her idea. Hell wouldn't wait forever to be reunited with her. Not that Shalandra could go back to Helheimir, since her last day had almost killed her. Dropping his paw into his furry thigh, he scowled at Shalandra's back as she once more stared outside. Whatever in the world are you staring at? There's nothing out there but grass and trees. And large glowing blue men surrounded by wolves like you. His eyes widened. Muttering in ancient Elvish, he leapt from the couch and in 2 long strides stopped behind her. Placing his hands on her shoulders, he towered over her and leaned closer to the window. Glancing down, a low growl rumbled deep in his throat at the sight of 5 back-to-back Dragar with swords drawn, the familiar blue glow of power encompassing them. Surrounding the creatures in a larger circle were 8 wolves. He recognized a few of them from the battle in Washington, D.C., where Bernard and Alva, along with the Norse god Freya and Freyr, fought against whoever controlled the Dragar King and his men, so his nephew could fix the problems he had caused by changing the war's timeline. What in Hades are they doing here? Who are they exactly? Shalandra tilted her head, her worried gaze increasing his anger. He had kept his home hidden for centuries, and now in mere minutes the sanctity and safety had been breached. Theirs is a cursed afterlife, neither dead nor living, like zombies, but not. They are supposedly the worst of the undead, doomed by their own malevolent deeds, or by a necromancer. We stumbled upon them not long ago in the United States. They actually ended up helping us in our fight. Her gaze moved back to the tight, glowing circle of beings below. So they are not wholly evil then? No, but I don't like that they're here either. He squeezed her fragile shoulder, mindful to keep his claws light against her skin. Stay here while I take care of whatever that is. Maybe I can help. You know I can calm just about anything. No, he began, but snapped his powerful jaw shut when she whirled around and placed her palm against his chest, pressing against the wide leather strap he always wore. Emmeline, you must start trusting my judgment. I am no longer a small child. I can take care of myself. The last time he'd forbidden her to do something, she'd stopped talking to him for a month. The last thing he wanted was for her to get angry at him again. Shaking his head, he followed his wolf's instincts, hardened by centuries of battle and the agony of torture. No, little one, not this time. You will not go anywhere near either group below. I do not know why they are here, and it would only take one mistake to end your life, and that I cannot allow. Remain here until I return. He turned toward the door. But he stopped, but didn't turn around. Shalandra. He spoke her name in a low growl. Without waiting for an answer, he left the room. Using his preternatural speed, he raced through the house and through the back door. Without hesitation, he leapt off the balcony and landed in front of the advancing werewolves to stare down the massive wolf now facing him, his angry ice blue eyes registering surprise. The cold eye color paired with the wolf's silver gray fur made Emmeline pause. The sensation of ice coating his own fur reminded him of the frozen mist and darkness of Nelhamir, Hell's domain, although she spent most of her time in the inner realm of Helhamir with the dead. He hadn't liked it then, and definitely didn't like it now. Why are you here? Emmeline demanded. You have no right to be here without permission. A brown wolf, thinner but more muscled than the silvery predator, stepped forward. I don't know if you remember me, Emmeline, but we met in D.C. With a quick glance at the speaker, Emmeline's gaze snapped back to the first wolf. Waves of anger emanated from him. Emmeline recognized the immediate threat, his gut telling him the creature shouldn't be trusted. I remember. You were called Andre, I believe. Yes, sir. We were sent here by one of the elf kings. A Lewin, I think. Andre shrugged. They're kind of hard to tell apart. Identical twins usually are, Emmeline said, forcing his body to relax. The silver wolf standing his ground, but with his tail down by one leg and his ears pointing more outward, his demeanor less aggressive. Straightening, Emmeline met Andre's brown gaze. Lamriel is a serious one and rarely smiles. Eluine can't seem to stop smiling. Andre's black lips curled up. Then it was Eluine. He joked with Demian. His motion with his clawed thumb to the silver wolf. Unfortunately, Demian doesn't understand humor. Humph. Emmeline crossed his arms, a slight smirk on his face. Seems he and Lamuel have something in common then. Now, tell me why Eluin thought you would be better off here than at Alheimir. The elf realm is beautiful this time of year. A mahogany-furred wolf stepped up next to Andre. I am Ruslan Kozlov, and that, he pointed to the last wolf, his fur a shade or two lighter, both with matching black eyes, is my brother Raviel. While the entire realm is beautiful, we number too many. We aren't known for controlling our temper, so add in close to 75 aggressive wolves, and it isn't pretty. He chuckled with a quick sideways glance to the Drugar. I also think the regents preferred the variety of copper, gold, and red leaves adorning the trees to remain where they are. In the presence of too many undead, leaves don't seem to stay on them for long. The co-regents thought it would be better to separate us into different realms, Raviel added. They trust you to train us to live as we are now. Whether we want to or not, the white wolf growled. Émilien turned his gaze to Damien. The feeling is mutual. I have lived with this curse for centuries and have discovered it is better to learn who I am now and what I am capable of. I was experimented on and cursed into this form by the Dark Fae, whose notes Himmler found and used to create you. So you're older and wiser, Dad. I'm not impressed. Damien's scowl deepened. I can take care of myself, and I don't need help from anyone. A smart-ass retort was on the tip of Émilien's tongue when he caught a familiar expression deep in the wolf's eyes. His own anger dissipated as the ceaseless pain surrounding his heart tightened its grip. His gaze touched on each beast, recognizing fellow warriors. He exhaled, letting go of past regrets, and turned back to Damien, the one who seemed to be drowning in the most sorrow. I will not force you to do anything, Damien. I too know what it's like to bury family and friends, never letting go of the ever-present anger because I failed to save them. I am as old as the universe and have seen more than you could comprehend, but all of that pales to the pain I carry in my heart for the loss of those under my care. Remembering the Dragar still standing behind him, he stepped away from the two groups. If you wish to remain here, you will be safe and well cared for. On the other side of the castle, there is a long building the wolves can stay in. He turned to face the Dragar, who stood at the front of the small group. A gaunt face with pale green eyes stared back. Each creature wore an open robe over dark pants and shirts that looked as if they'd come from the Renaissance instead of modern times. While the leader's features resembled the other Dragar, there was something about him that seemed familiar. Frowning, he tried to remember, but when the other creatures moved to stand behind their leader, he shook off the thought. I am Émilien Elasalor. Who sent you here? The lead Dragar's pale gaze lowered to his. Alva and Bernard thought it best if we came here, but did not say why. Alva and her mate we trust. You are unknown. If Bernard's woman believes you should be here, then I cannot argue. If you will follow me, I will take you to where you can stay. He took a few steps and then stopped and turned to meet Damien's icy stare. There will be no bloodshed on my land. I have given you all of you sanctuary, which will be respected at all times. None of you want to be judged for how you look, so until you get to know someone, don't judge them. Émilien held the other wolf's gaze until he gave a subtle nod.